There's a moment before violence where the world goes silent. No crowd, no noise, no escape. Before Mike Tyson ever threw a punch, most of his opponents were already defeated. Not by strength, not by speed, but by fear. This is the story of how Mike Tyson learned to win fights before they ever began. Just you, and the thing standing across from you. And in that moment, you realize something terrible. You've already lost. Not because you're weaker, not because you're slower, but because standing in front of you is your own fear made flesh. Mike Tyson didn't win fights in the ring. He won them in the mind. Before the bell, before the walkout, before the gloves even touched. He won them in the second you looked into his eyes and saw nothing looking back. Brooklyn, 1970s. A boy who couldn't speak without stuttering. A boy the world stepped on, invisible, forgotten. But inside that broken child, something was forming. Not hope, not dreams, something darker. Something that understood the only language the streets respected. Fear. He learned early, predators don't negotiate, they take, and they take through terror. By 13, arrested over and over. By 14, he'd discovered the truth most people spend their whole lives avoiding, that fear is contagious. And if you show none, you become the disease. Then, Cus D'Amato found him. Most trainers build fighters. Cus built weapons. He didn't teach boxing, he taught warfare, psychological warfare. He understood that every fight is won or lost in the mind before a single punch is thrown. He saw in Tyson the perfect vessel, a kid with nothing to lose and everything to prove. A kid who could become what others couldn't even imagine. Cus would whisper to him in that gym. The hero and the coward both feel fear, but only the hero moves forward. But Tyson became something else entirely. He became the fear itself. Watch the footage. Really watch it. When Tyson walks to the ring, reality shifts. The temperature changes. Men who've trained their entire lives suddenly feel small, unprepared, naked. Commentators stumble over words. The audience leans back. Because something is entering that arena that doesn't belong in sport. Something primal. No robe, just muscle and bad intentions. No entrance music, no theatrics, just forward motion, relentless, inhuman. His walk isn't a performance, it's a death march, and he's coming for you. Then the stare. Most fighters look at their opponents to size them up. Tyson looked through them, past the flesh, into the soul. And those eyes didn't just look, they promised. Not pain, something worse. Total annihilation, the erasure of everything you thought you were. And across the ring, in that moment, a voice whispers inside the opponent's head, a voice they can't silence. I don't want to be here. Jesse Ferguson felt it. Days before their fight, he felt it. When the bell rang, he was already drowning. Tyson didn't just beat him, he shattered his orbital bone, drove it into his skull. And afterward, with that high-pitched voice, that childlike lisp, Tyson said the quiet part out loud. I wanted to drive his nose bone into his brain. Not a metaphor, literal intent.
This is when opponents realized they weren't fighting a boxer, they were fighting something that wanted to end them. The tapes became torture devices. Fighters would study Tyson and watch their own futures. They'd see him destroy men in seconds, demolish careers with combinations so fast the camera couldn't catch them. And with every viewing, their confidence bled out. They'd train harder, spar longer, but you can't train for presence, for aura, for the feeling that you're not fighting a man, but a force of nature with a pulse. Marvis Frazier, son of Joe Frazier, legitimate contender. 30 seconds, that's all it took. 30 seconds of condensed violence so pure, so absolute that people watching couldn't process what they'd seen. But the fight didn't last 30 seconds. It lasted weeks, in Frazier's mind, in his dreams, in every quiet moment where doubt crept in. The knockout was just confirmation. Michael Spinks was undefeated, a champion who'd never known defeat. He hired psychologists, studied every frame of Tyson's fights, built a strategy.
Convinced himself he had the answer. But when they stood face to face at the weigh-in, when Tyson's eyes locked onto him with that empty, dead promise, everything Spinks had built collapsed. 91 seconds. The fastest heavyweight title fight in history. But it wasn't won in 91 seconds. It was won in the hotel room the night before, when Spinks couldn't sleep, when his mind became a prison, when every shadow seemed to move with Tyson's shape. This is what Cuss understood, what he hammered into Tyson until it became instinct, that fighting is 10% body and 90% mind, that if you can make a man doubt himself, question his training, fear the pain more than he craves the glory, you don't need to touch him. He's already beaten. Tyson's peekaboo style wasn't defense, it was psychological dismantling. Head movements so tight, so precise, that punches missed by fractions of inches. And every miss was a message. You can't hit me, you can't hurt me, but I can hurt you. Then the explosion. Combinations from impossible angles, uppercuts that traveled 6 inches and shut down nervous systems. Each punch a withdrawal from the bank of their courage. But the silence destroyed them most. No trash talk, no predictions, no games, just existence. Just that black hole of intent sitting across from them, refusing to be human. Other fighters would try to break the tension with words, try to make it normal, make it a sport again. Tyson's silence said everything. Nothing you say changes what's coming. Nothing you've done prepared you for this. In that ring, there is only me and what I will do to you. Cuss died in 1985, before Tyson became the youngest heavyweight champion in history, before the world knew his name. But the weapon was already forged. The philosophy was already embedded. Tyson carried it like a curse he couldn't escape, and a gift he couldn't refuse. At 20 years old, he became champion, not because he was the most skilled, not because he was the biggest, because he understood what most fighters refuse to accept, that combat is decided in the mind first. The body just follows orders.
Strip everything away. The titles, the knockouts, the highlight reels. What remains is a lesson in human psychology, a demonstration that fear is more powerful than strength, that presence breaks will, that the battle between belief and doubt determines everything, not just in boxing, in life. Every opponent who faced Tyson fought 1,000 rounds before the real one.
in their heads, in their nightmares, in the quiet moments when doubt whispered. They imagined the pain, rehearsed the humiliation, visualized the defeat. And when the bell finally rang, they weren't fighting Mike Tyson. They were fighting the version of him they'd created in their minds. And that version was unbeatable. This is the truth we refuse to face, that we defeat ourselves more often than we're defeated by others, that the stories we tell ourselves become prophecies we fulfill, that fear, once given permission, will consume everything. Tyson was devastating not because he was superhuman, but because he was willing to become what others feared most. And his opponents were unwilling to face their own darkness. Before the fight even began, in the silence before violence, in the space between heartbeats, the outcome was already written. Not in the tale of the tape, not in the odds, but in the answer to one question that cannot be faked. When everything is on the line, when pain is guaranteed, when your body is screaming to run, can you walk forward anyway? Most men can't. Mike Tyson knew it, and he used it like a blade.